We took it to 55% at no cost to the company. Then we did a transaction that took us to 85%. And on the back of that, we sold 5% of that enlarged interest in the block for $2.5 million to a company called Sintana Energy.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. I'm joined by Scott Gilbert, the CEO of Corcel. Scott, very good to speak with you. For investors new to Corcel, how would you describe the company's core focus today and how that's evolved over the past year?
So Corcel is a pure upstream oil and gas high impact exploration company. So that's a one-liner of how we describe Corcel.
Tell us a bit more about your energy assets and where you're at with those.
Yeah, so Corcel has a strategic focus in sub-Saharan Africa and Latin America. So on sub-Saharan Africa, we're active in Angola. So we've got 3 assets in Angola. One of them is KON-16, which is Kwanza Onshore 16. It's an asset that we operate. And then we have 2 other assets where we're not the operator. The operator is Angola, Angola's national oil company. And those are also exploration assets, but they have a near-term production and development opportunities. These are assets that produced back in the 70s and the 80s. So that's in the sub-Saharan Africa side in Angola. Across the Atlantic in Latin America, we are doing business development efforts in the quest for production opportunities. So we are studying and evaluating several opportunities to acquire production. So that's the 2 sort of verticals of the business at the moment. Operationally in Angola, in our KON-16 operated block, we've got 200 people on the ground at the moment. It's very exciting times. We are conducting a 2D seismic on the block, and that's 326 kilometer line of 2D seismic, which we're doing to be able to determine where we're going to drill the well in the 5 different prospects that we have across the basin, which are pre-salt prospects and post-salt prospects.
Scott, you're out to your 2025 results at the end of December. Looking at the results, what do you see as the biggest operational or strategic progress the company's made?
Corcel as an entity, as a company, it's been around for a long time, and it's been involved in mining, it's been involved in battery metals. But really, the company in the middle of 2023 pivoted to become an oil and gas company when Apex, which is a company that I started with Geraldo, we sold those assets into Corcel, and then run about Q2 of 2024, we took over the management of the company, and we started the rebuilding of the company. So I think the significant progress that we've made is really in KON-16 primarily. We started with a 35% interest in the block. We took it to 55% at no cost to the company. Then we did a transaction that took us to 85%. And on the back of that, we sold 5% of that enlarged interest in the block for $2.5 million to a company called Sintana Energy. So yeah, we've really built the transaction from we built the company to today from a point of where it had a very sort of assets that needed a lot of development to them, a lot of work, and we've deployed money into the ground to start our seismic program. So we've become essentially operational in the last year and a half, and with the last fundraise that we did in December, we've essentially got firepower to be able to go and pursue our business development opportunities and put money into the ground to continue to operate.
You mentioned the fundraise, and that was £3 million that you raised in early December. You also brought in 2 experienced new shareholders. What does that say about confidence in Corcel at this stage?
Well, so if I take it back to when we sort of started the turnaround and took over management of the company, we essentially raised money at the very beginning at 0.1p. Then we raised money at 0.16, and then we had warrants that came in at 0.225, and then we raised money at 0.34, and then this very last fundraise was at 0.35. So we have, in a very disciplined way, raised money at different milestones, at points of achievement of certain objectives. We've raised money, and from that point, our share price has sort of behaved in the right direction. When we started all of this, the market cap was a couple of £1 million. We're shy of 30 million pounds today, and the share price is 3-4 times what it was when we started. So this particular raise in December was very interesting. It was only 2 investors, sophisticated investors from the market, understand the industry, and it just signals confidence in terms of what we're doing, and the fact that we're at the very beginning. We are doing our seismic. We're very excited about the results that may come out of that, and as we get ready to drill one of the first exploration wells in the onshore Kwanza Basin over the last decade, the last 40-50 years.
Scott, when you think about the next 6 to 12 months, what news flow or milestones should investors be paying closest attention to?
I think there are several. One of them is the results of our 2D seismic program, the decision as to where we're going to drill the well, what are tighten up what we're looking at in terms of prospects. We've got 5 pre-salt prospects on that block. We've got several post-salt prospects as well. So it's about defining that and having a better picture of what the block looks like. So that's one. And together with that, within KON-16, it's about the preparation for the well. It's whether we're going to do a farm out. It's about securing the rig, and it's about getting ready for that big event. So that's there's several bits of catalyst within that project. And then on the other side of the Atlantic, like I mentioned, and potentially here in sub-Saharan Africa as well, is about what we do around the production side. And the idea is really to create a balanced portfolio where we have production that brings us revenue, so that we can focus on the core of our business, which has been a high impact exploration company. So yeah, that's what we're working towards, and we hope to deliver some of these news as we move on to the next few months in 2026.
Well, Scott, I hope you'll keep us updated on your progress. Thank you very much for the introduction today.
Well, welcome. Thank you.
Scott Gilbert, the CEO of Corcel.